Hello, hello. Welcome to Tea Time History Chat Live. Welcome to Wednesday, the 26th of April. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Tutbury Castle. I also have a extra speaker to tell you about that is coming to the Tudor History Festival this autumn. And also a couple of interviews I've been doing that you'll be interested to hear about. So all of that is happening today. Welcome. I'm streaming live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Hello, if you're returning, and a warm welcome to you if this is your first time. This is where you need to come to for British history and a bit of a relaxed chat of a Wednesday afternoon here, whatever time it is where you are. Please feel free to pop a comment below, say hi, tell me where you're coming from, anything interesting you've seen in the history news this week. Please feel free to raise it. I might not have seen it, so I'm happy to discuss anything you're oh, no sound, bear with me. Am I now here with you? Sorry about that, everybody. I'll start again, shall I? Thursday, tea time. No, it's not Thursday. I'll start again. It's Tea Time History Chat Live. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Tutbury Castle, which I visited last Thursday. You might have seen I've done a couple of posts about it. It was a one-time prison to, well, 4 times actually, technically, prison to Mary Queen of Scots. Linda's joining on Facebook. Hello to you. Welcome if you're on Instagram. Mary, she can hear me now. Good. Yes, that was my fault. One thing was on, the other thing wasn't on. Both things needed to be on, and now we are here. So, yes, I was saying to everyone on Instagram who couldn't hear me, please feel free to pop a comment, say hi, let me know where you're joining from. What time is it there, Linda? It's 8 o'clock in Michigan, and we have sound on Facebook and YouTube. Yay! Oh, best laid plans. You'd have thought by now I might, not have technical issues, but there you go. One man, one woman, one man, whatever, band, and these things happen. So so I'll talk to you about Tutbury Castle. If you've seen my reel or any of in fact, the day I was there, and the following day I did a big story on Tutbury Castle. And I'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. Erin is in London. Mary Beth is in Pennsylvania. Jude is in Raleigh. Good morning, Darla in Indiana. You've got Amy here. Terry, hello. Brian's down in Cornwall. Cloudy. I like the emojis. He knows what to expect now. We have sunny spells. I would put sun and cloud for me at the moment. I like the emojis thing. Go for the emojis. I think if you do like emojis and make sure you like, if you're on YouTube, if you like the video, then basically this gets seen by more people who might enjoy it, which is nice, and we can expand the audience. Ricky Cindy, sorry, in Oklahoma. Robin in Atlanta. Welcome. I don't know if you've got your cup of tea. I actually have a cup of tea today. Made in a pot. It's the best way. Good morning, Rennie. How are you doing over there in Michigan? So I'm going to talk to you about Tutbury, as I've said. I'm also going to let you know of an additional speaker to the Tudor History Festival lineup. That's an online history festival. It'll be our 3rd. We did one last November. We did one in March, so just gone. And we've got one this November. So we did the Stuarts last November, Georgians and we've got Tudors coming up this November. So I will let you in on who that extra speaker is going to be. Amy, I can't believe I've missed 2 History After Darks in the last 2 weeks. Well, I'm missing tonight, so you're not on your own. After this is finished, I'm traveling down south, so I won't be on History After Dark either tonight, I'm afraid. Rebecca is also in Atlanta. Linda, did I see Gareth's Facebook post the new cover of his Hampton Court Palace book? I haven't. Oh, I need to go looking. I need to go and find that. Joan, it's 5 a.m. Good morning. I'll speak gently for a while. Melissa is in Cape Cod. Hi, Lisa. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So, yes, yeah, please comment, like, subscribe, and all of that. It really, really helps to get the word out. It helps um, join up with other history lovers. You can, of course, and I will mention this just before we move on, join my Patreon, linked actually to what I'm about to tell you about. Charlene has joined this week, so I like giving all my new patrons, they all get a shout out. So Charlene has joined the crew. Rennie, loving the vibe. Are you liking the look? Gareth's book cover is on. Oh, he's put it on Instagram this morning. So I have been interviewing someone this morning, hence me not being on social media and seeing this post of Gareth's. So I'm getting a preview of the book though, because if you're a patron, you'll know that I do historian interviews, and they go onto my YouTube each month. And if you're a patron, you get to know, you get to submit your own questions for whoever it is I'm interviewing. So some of you will have remembered that I was interviewing this morning Sarah Slater, who is Hampton Court tour guide on Instagram. She is a white badge guide, which I found out what that was this morning. Brian, just so you know, I'm going to my dance class, but I'll try and make it History After Dark later. Well, enjoy your dance class, Brian. Love it. And you'll see the girls on History After Dark tonight, but not me, just for this week. So I've been speaking to Sarah Slater. Now, yeah, so like I say, patrons were able to put their own questions to her. And I was talking to her specifically about guiding at Hampton Court Palace. She, like I say, is a white badge guide, which I didn't know what that was until I spoke to her. And it means that you're actually trained in a specific location. So you've heard of green badge guides, you definitely have heard of blue badge guides, and there's white badge guides. So she is specifically trained as a guide lecturer at Hampton Court Palace. So the entire interview was fascinating about the history of Hampton Court Palace, who's lived there, the architecture, the myths, the ghost stories, the bits that aren't open to the public. We went through it all. So that was fabulous. And then patrons questions were asked at the end. But so this links back to Gareth. Gareth is doing an interview with me, and I will be asking patrons to submit their own questions for Gareth Russell about his new book on the history of Hampton Court Palace through the people who live there. So if you want to be able to submit your own question to Gareth, and by the way, the patrons are the only ones who also see those questions and their answers, because that makes up an extended, also ad-free version of the interviews. So you can put your questions to Gareth if you're a patron. It's £5 a month. You can leave any time. And the other benefit, well, one of the other benefits, quite a few actually. So when I was at Tutbury Castle, for instance, there's more photos about Mary, Queen of Scots, lost prison building there. That went on to my Patreon as well. So just to give you an idea. But of course, the other thing is our book club. And this is our current book in book club, Blood, Fire and Gold by Estelle Peronk, about Elizabeth I and Catherine de Medici. Mary, Queen of Scots features heavily in here as well. And this is going to be our book. We're doing our book club meeting. So it's all online because we're all over the world. We're doing our book club meeting on the 21st of May, Sunday, the 21st of May, which is actually the day that I get back from, it's the day after I get back from the Anne Boleyn tour. So it's going to be a lovely but busy week. So if you're interested in putting your questions to historians, you're interested in getting the ad-free versions of the extended versions of the interviews, and of course getting to come to book club, then patreon.com/British history is where you need to be. So Linda says it's a great read. It was. It's a brilliant book. Oh, Heidi, a little late, couch bound with a torn meniscus after a fall yesterday. Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're rest up, and it will heal quicker. Don't be like me. Be determined to get on and as quick as possible. It was not a good idea. Not with a meniscus, with a bad back, sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, look after yourself. So I'm very excited, though, to also say, oh, the other thing I should say, God, there's so much that you get in Patreon is 10% off event tickets. So for the Tudors Online History Festival, you get 10% off the ticket price. We have 7 speakers at the Tudor Online History Festival now. So last week I announced the first 6, and since then I've had another confirmation. So I will tell you about who that is in a second. We have, if I just remind you of who we have already. Or Beverly says she's just finished Blood, Fire and Gold and just picked up Young and Damned and Fair from the library. Young and Damned and Fair is Gareth Russell's biography of Catherine Howard, of course. Well, you will thoroughly enjoy that one as well. So for the Tudors Online History Festival, so far, the speaker lineup is confirmed, is Tracy Borman, who, if anyone's following, is doing she's doing an actual theatre tour. It's fantastic. She's somewhere different every night. That woman has so much energy. So Tracy Borman is speaking at the Online History Festival, Tudors Online History Festival. Gareth Russell will also be speaking. Dr. Cat Marchant will be speaking. Estelle Perronc, author of Blood, Fire and Gold, will be speaking. Joanne Paul will be speaking. Professor James Clark, whose interview I've still yet to, I need to edit it together and get that onto my YouTube, but you are going to love it. It's the one on the dissolution of the monasteries. He gave me 3 hours of his time. Patrons, buckle up. One of those hours is just for you. And what I think I'm going to do is split it up, because it is a long interview. I'm going to serialize it, put it on my YouTube. It is fabulous. And James Clark will be speaking at the Tudors Online History Festival. So they're the 6. They're the 6 that I announced last week. The 7th speaker is Illyri Lynn. She's spoken at the last 2 online history festivals. She is a sort of textiles and fashion historian. I don't know her exact title, but that is what she does, what she is. She was behind things like the Bacton altar cloth exhibition at Hampton Court Palace when that was on, if any one of you were lucky enough to see that. And she is an authority on fashion through history, and she is now going to be also doing a talk at the Tudors Festival. So you can get your tickets for that so it's hosted on Eventbrite. So if you you can go to Eventbrite and search for the Tudors Online History Festival, or you can go excuse me, to www.thetudors2023.eventbrite.co.uk. It's not .com, it's .co.uk. You can also find the link to that in my bio or on the website britishhistorytours.com. So remember, if you're a patron, you get 10% off as well from your ticket price. So there is the lineup for the Tudors Online History Festival. Now, the other thing to mention, which is slightly different to the last 2, is we have and we have had for the last 2, but a live Q&A where you can put your questions to the speakers, and they have been authors, and a couple of the speakers who've been doing the talks, the previous one. This one, the Tudors, you will get to see live all of those people. All of those will be there. So that's Tracy Borman, Gareth Russell, Cat Marchant, James Clark, Illyri Lynn, Estelle Perronc, and Joanne Paul. If you can't make the session live, it'll be the 19th of November, Sunday the 19th of November. But if you can't make it live, you can submit your question beforehand, so don't worry. And then the recordings of those lives are available, as well as all the talks, until the end of the following January, so January 2024. So it's a fab event. I think you'll all love it. I've missed a few comments while I was doing that. So Jenna, really hope to get to the book club on May the 21st. It's the first weekend of fair season, which you are heavily involved in, and I love seeing your photographs from. Yes, brilliant. So here we are. Who have we got? Maria, hello from rehab centre. What? Oh dear. My afternoon is definitely not as eventful as yours by the look of it, Maria. No. Stay safe as much as you can, please. Right. So there you go. So that's the Tudor History Festival lineup. I've mentioned also briefly already that I've been speaking to Sarah Slater. So that interview will I haven't got a date to bring that to you yet, but that's all filmed this morning, talking about Hampton Court Palace, what it's like to guide there. But she's so knowledgeable on the history because, like I say, she's a white badge guide, which means that is her training is in one place. It's in Hampton Court Palace. And just as a example of things she was talking about, she explained the story behind the stained glass windows in the Great Hall. Now, if any of you have been to Hampton Court or you've seen pictures of Hampton Court, obviously the Great Hall is iconic. And it's the stained glass is Victorian, and I have definitely been guilty of this, sort of dismissing it because it's Victorian. There is an entire, very well thought out story behind the stained glass, and it does feature Henry VIII and all of his 6 wives, so you clearly know it's not contemporary to the hall, it's not Tudor. But the story that it's telling, the way it works with where the sun comes in and doesn't come in, is very, very fascinating. So you'll be able to hear all about that. Good morning, Lollipoppy. So yes, please feel free to stick a hello in the chat, an emoji of what the weather's like where you are, if an emoji of what you're doing, if it's not too rude. Maria, Mum's doing her physio while I watch the public fight with the police. Oh dear, outside. Oh, because the road's cut off. Yeah. Lots of people are stupid here. Lots of people are stupid everywhere, but it's entertaining. So that was the interview I've done with Sarah Slater. The other interview that I've got for you coming up. Good morning, Karen in New Jersey. Sunny there. Oh, come on, sunshine. Do you know, it's starting to get sunny here. So I have my first tour of the season beginning in, I'm not sure how many days, 16th of May. So not long, cloudy in Raleigh. Yeah. I don't know if any of you've seen, we've got these travel diaries for this tour. This is the one I do every May, the Anne Boleyn tour. Oh, Kath, having a coffee while my son is ill and off school. Up in East Lancashire, though, lovely part of the world. And look, I've got a cute little pen that goes with it as well. Oh, you can't see. Anyway, that's the same, but on the little pen. Yeah, we go in, so however many days that is, till 16th of May. And it's sunny here, but it's cold. It is still cold. Janine over there in Minnesota. Danny in Milan. Already too hot here in Italy. Well, you're in Italy, which I miss. And I'm solar powered. So we'll swap. But yes, I'm hoping it warms up, at least if it's dry for the tour. That is always ideal. Obviously, we have plan A's, B's, and C's for all sorts of eventualities, but a bit of warmth would be nice. The other interview, that I have, and I definitely have this coming up for you next week, is my interview with Julian Humphreys. Any of you who came to the Stuart Online Summit or have been on History After Dark with us, you will know Julian. He is he is a Battlefields Trust trustee. But his knowledge, his background, he's varied and in depth. And I was speaking to him about the Battle of Tewkesbury, which sees its anniversary next week, the 4th of May. And the Battle of Tewkesbury was pivotal. I have a very interesting theory that I'll tell you in a minute. Maria got sunburnt, even though she's slathered in SPF 50. Not amused. Absolutely boiling. Apparently, we may well get this warm weather. We don't want it quite as warm as we did last July, I have to say. We were on tour in 40-degree heat, and that was too much. That was too much. Everyone did very well, but we had to adapt what we were doing because it was just so hot. So hot. We do sort of medium weather here. Don't like it too cold, don't like it too hot. But anywhere in the middle, and this is the best place to be, I have to say. So, yes, so the Battle of Tewkesbury is the anniversary is next week, so you will get to hear Julian's interview next week. Patrons, of course, you get it a few days early. And you'll have seen a few weeks ago, I was at Tewkesbury. In fact, I'm back in Tewkesbury on tour at the end of June into July. We're on the Private Life of Anne Boleyn tour then, and we use the backdrop of the. Sorry, I keep knocking my microphone. We use the backdrop of the 1535 Summer Progress that Anne Boleyn did with Henry VIII to look at Anne's life and personality in more detail. And so I'll be back there again. But yes, the Battle of Tewkesbury. So the Battle of Tewkesbury, 1471, is the one. I think I spoke about this last week a bit, actually. So I'll do it quickly. But it's the one where you have Edward IV's forces. The three brothers are there: Edward IV, George, Duke of Clarence, and Richard, Duke of Gloucester, who, of course, will become Richard III. George, Duke of Clarence, is the brother who is executed for treason at the Tower of London in the subsequent years. But the three brothers are turning out on the same side this time. You have forces led by the king's wife, not on the battlefield, but possibly strategically, the forces of Henry VI's wife, Margaret of Anjou, who, by the way, is linked to Tutbury Castle as well, which I'll be talking about shortly. And Edward IV's army catches up with the army of Margaret of Anjou at Tewkesbury. They're trying to get across the river to get into Wales, where they think they can find more support. Her son, Henry VI, and Margaret of Anjou's only son, he's 17 at the time, Edward, Prince of Wales, is also there and does turn out on the battlefield. Now, he is killed during the fighting, whether it's during the battle or the aftermath, but he is killed there. And so Henry VI is already in captivity. This is the end for that line, the Lancastrian line. And so he's killed. So really, if you think about it, then that was the end of what was latter, much later called the Wars of the Roses. And it wasn't called the Cousins' War either, apparently. That's another made up thing. You'd already had two lots. Oh, thank you, Carly Faye, for the badge. Thank you. I must say, thank you. I never even thought to say about badges. You can support me with badges on Instagram, stars on Facebook, and super chats on YouTube. I would love, though, for you to come over to my Patreon, because that's where I can give you back a load of stuff for your £5 a month. And that's patreon.com/British history. So Tewkesbury, I was writing a bit of a synopsis for my patrons, because I was inviting them to ask to submit questions for Julian, and I found myself thinking, well, how is this not the last battle of the Wars of the Roses, as I'll call it? And So Marie asks, why was it renamed the Wars of the Roses? Do we know at all? I don't think it was renamed. I think that's the name it was given. And Shakespeare, I think, wasn't it? Referred to it as the Wars of the Roses. I don't know if he's the first or whether he is reflecting what it was being known as. But the Tudors, it's brilliant for Tudor propaganda to call it the Wars of the Roses because the Tudors combine those roses. So Henry VII can say, I finished it and I concluded the entire thing with my marriage to Elizabeth of York. And we've literally got the white rose of York and the red rose of Lancaster together, combined, and in our children, they're combined. And this is why it's all over. I've sorted it. Thank you for the badge, Deb Auden International Fine Art. Thank you very much for the badge. So that's why it is I mean, the Tudor Rose itself is a brilliant piece of propaganda to call it the Wars of the Roses. Now, that is where I started to go, my mind started to go to when I was explaining, where does the Battle of Tewkesbury fit in? Well, it's sort of the end of the Second Wars of the Roses. Well, how though? When it's so we've got 71 to 85, so it's 14 years until the Battle of Bosworth. Let me pause there for a moment. Jenna says, it baffles me why they allowed Prince Edward to be on the battlefield. I understand it's war, but I would think with him being heir and his father being so unstable, no one would risk his safety. But he was very Julian talks about this actually, so you'll be able to understand this more from when you see his interview than probably from me now. But it's important, in fact it's vital, that the this is what we don't get now, but it's vital that our leaders are literally leading in the battlefield. He needs to prove himself. If he doesn't prove himself on the battlefield, then he's as good as useless. So they're not going to protect him. He doesn't want to be protected either. He wants to prove himself. It's really important. That's what gives him the status, and it's not just about status as in, bling and palaces and whatnot. It's, is he good for the role? Is he good for this? Rebecca, I'll have to make a mental note during HAD tonight to ask Dr. Cat if Shakespeare originated the phrase. Yes, if anyone would know. Well, indeed, Rebecca, Cat would know. Yes. Yeah. In fact, they're doing a Q&A tonight, aren't they? Because I'm not on History After Dark tonight because I'm travelling down south after we finish here today. So I think they are doing a Q&A, so that would be a good one. You can ask on behalf of me as well. So I found myself explaining that this is sort of the end of the Second Wars of the Roses, and yet it's 14 years after that the Battle of Bosworth happens. Now, we don't clump together many wars like that, do we? I don't like it. It doesn't feel like we do. Marianne, I've heard World War One referred to as the War of the Cousins. Is that right? Well, I suppose it was really. Well, depends. Yeah. So I suppose we call them the World Wars, but they're distinctly the World War One, World War Two. You could even call previous wars to that World Wars if you want to, start splitting hairs about who actually was involved and how many countries were involved. Hello, Brian in New York. Thank you for joining. So my mind started to go to, is this also a piece of Tudor propaganda? Because the same way as Henry VII can say he's completed the Wars of the Roses by him being the Lancastrian line, which is tenuous, And obviously his wife Elizabeth of York being the daughter of Edward IV, he's combined them in marriage, in children. You've got the Tudor rose, which is the icon of that. What better way to keep that narrative going, but to make your invasion with a mercenary force into Wales and your claim to be the Lancastrian claimant to the throne? What better, let's keep up with this narrative and make out that the Battle of Bosworth was part of those overall Wars of the Roses. There you go. There's a bit of a new perspective on that, and one which occurred to me a couple of weeks ago. And I asked Julian his opinion on that, on my take from that as well. So you'll be able to see that in the interview. Elaine, hi, down there in Brazil. Beautiful, beautiful. So you'll be able to see that interview next week about the Battle of Tewkesbury, because that is the anniversary. My interview with Sarah Slater from who is she's fabulous Hampton guide at Hampton Court Palace. She guides my tour groups when I take them there, because she's fabulous. They're all fabulous, but I really, really take to Sarah. She knows so much, because she is a white badge guide. She's at Hampton Court. She is a guide lecturer there. She's just fabulous. So you'll see that. I'll let you know when that one's going to be out, because a date for it yet. Maria, it should be duly noted that you also influence us fashion wise. You look very lovely in this colour and cap sleeve sweater. Very summery. Thank you very much. Do you know, right, when this came, I'll tell you a funny story. It came with shoulder pads. It was like that. I had them taken out. That was just too much. That was too much. Actually, I look like I should be on the Starship Enterprise or something if they're out there. No, I couldn't have had that, could I? Let them just sit there over my colossal shoulders. Built up from swimming as a teenager and continued with weightlifting now. But there you are. That's how come I can lift suitcases. Shall we get on to Tutbury Castle? I was there. Tony Girl, you are very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm glad you like this format. It is a little bit chatty, but we do cover quite a lot. So I hope you enjoy it. Mary, I feel the modification was exceptional. Thank you. I didn't do it myself either. There's a really lovely seamstress in the local town, so I got her to do it. I was no way I was going to mess. So last Thursday, so I saw you all last Wednesday. Last Thursday, I went to Tutbury Castle, which is in the Midlands, which becomes significant when we talk about the story of a one-time prisoner there. I say one time. She was there 4 times, but Mary Queen of Scots was kept prisoner there. But the castle, if you ever get to go to Tutbury Castle, and Linda, if she's still on, definitely will be in September. And there's a few of you who are on tour with me in September. We're doing an Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour. And we go to Tutbury Castle because of its, because of course it was a prison for Mary Queen of Scots, but also Leslie Smith, who is the curator there. If you don't know who she is, have a look on my YouTube channel and look at the interview I did with her about how she does what she does. And what she does is, but she plays the characters. So she'll be Mary Queen of Scots, or she'll be Elizabeth I. I've seen her do Catherine of Aragon. She does Boudica, which I'm desperate to see. I've not seen that one yet. And she not to sound too woo-woo, but she channels them so that you can feel what she's trying to do is really bring to life the character, the people. I don't want to call them characters, because what she's trying to do is show you that they're real people with feelings, with emotions, with make mistakes, who don't strategize their life down to the T, which we always do that to historical people. Think about that, what we do. We analyze their lives so much as if they have a strategy. Do you all have a strategy? I don't have a strategy. And even if you do, what is it? Tell God your plans. And if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So Anyway, so she embodies Mary Queen of Scots. It's fabulous. This performance is just fabulous. It's a monologue, really, and then you get to interact with her and ask questions. So we're going to Tutbury Castle to see Leslie be Mary Queen of Scots, but also to visit, obviously, the place where Mary was incarcerated on 4 occasions. If you go to Tutbury Castle, you're also walking in the footsteps of, I've mentioned her already, Margaret of Anjou, who was gifted the castle on her marriage to Henry VI, John of Gaunt, and Blanche of Lancaster. Blanche of Lancaster, I think, may have given birth there, possibly died there. I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone's sure, but I'm not sure if that's what I've heard. Richard III spent a lot of money on the castle gardens, actually. But it is in a very strategic place. It's sort of on the top, well, it is on the top of a hill. The views around it are superb, very important if it's going to be a strategic castle, which indeed it was. I think it was built in 1068. And so this is straight after the Norman conquest. It's part of a string of castles to defend, stamp authority on, whatever, by the Normans to the populace. Linda, I watched a couple of videos on YouTube on Leslie as Mary Queen of Scots. Great history. Yes. Oh, yes, I've got an interview with her about Mary as well, actually. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's worth a look. So it is in a strategic position. Like I say, one of the string of Norman castles which were put up just after the I was going to say invasion. I suppose it was really conquering the conquest of 1066. Makes it very windy, can make it very cold, can make it inhospitable in certain, time at certain times of the year, and that is what Mary found. When Mary, Queen of Scots, was first taken there, it actually hadn't been too long since there had been a bit of a refurbishment. Oh, Henry VIII knew the palace as well, by the way, the castle as well, because he had a stud sort of farm. I don't know if you call it a stud farm, but it's nearby. That's where his horses came from. And so Elizabeth I actually had. Oh, am I stopping? Elizabeth I had money spent on Tutbury Castle in kind of anticipation of going there. I think Robert Dudley might have been there to survey and decide what to do. So, but in the end, Elizabeth didn't go, but it was chosen as a prison for Mary, and she was first taken there and put in. When she was first taken there, she was put in the rooms that I suppose Queen Elizabeth would have stayed in had she have gone. The tower that she was in remains. It is a slighted castle, so it is ruined. That happened after the English civil wars of the 17th century. Act of Parliament to slight Tutbury Castle because it held out for King Charles. But the tower that Mary was kept in is still there. There's a fireplace still there, which Mary would have, you can imagine, would have stood next to, would recognise, which is quite special. You can't get anywhere near it because it's halfway up a wall now because there's no floors in there. Linda, I bet it will be lovely weather in September. Fingers crossed. Yes, hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be. But even, do you know, when I went, sorry, I keep knocking my microphone. When I went, it was a sunny day, so the photographs, if you've seen them on my Instagram, and I've got a reel on Instagram as well, the photographs are beautiful because it's blue sky. It was, though, incredibly windy, so a bit cutting in the air. I think that gives a good insight into why Mary wouldn't have liked it. So, like I say, initially she wasn't kept in too bad conditions. But then at the beginning of Mary's incarceration, she did have more freedoms. As time went on and the sort of events evolved in all sorts of ways. Elizabeth was excommunicated by the Pope. Um, you have a more I think possibly some invented, but some definitely real conspiracies to get Elizabeth off the throne and put a replacement on the throne. Of course, Mary being a uh, a sort of top candidate for that. She's Catholic, she's Tudor blood, she's definitely royal blood from all ways, and she's in the country. So you can see why there was this temptation. As time goes on, Mary does seem to be involved. Like, she's got nothing else left. Her son isn't taking any sort of part um, in negotiating for her release, and she does get embroiled in the Babington plot. So by the time she's brought back to Tutbury I haven't actually committed the year to memory. I think it's 1567. Don't know if someone wants to look that up for me. But by the time she's brought back to Tutbury then, and all this has moved on, she's kept in a timber framed, what we would think actually of as quintessentially Tudor. If you think about the, timber frame and the wattle and daub, she's kept in this building, which is it's 2-story, I think 1 story, 1 room deep. I don't think it was particularly deep, but built up to around the inside of the curtain wall between where she was kept the first time and another tower between the north and south towers. It's damp, it's drafty, it's cold. It's next to the midden, which is the rubbish dump for the castle. It's so mouldy that Mary says she has to wipe the mould off everything every day. It is horrendous. And the interview I did with Leslie is well worth a look, because she talks about her treatment. And one of the things that Leslie said is Elizabeth might not want to have executed Mary, but that doesn't mean she didn't want her dead. And the conditions she was kept in, Mary was ill, actually, by this point. Jenna just made the point, no wonder she was so sick. She was so, the trauma, she was very traumatized. She would, Leslie talks about accounts of where she runs out of the house into kind of the green in bare feet, screaming. She throws up blood when she's first brought to the castle at the castle gates. That gate, by the way, you can still walk through, so you're literally walking exactly where Mary Queen of Scots would have gone. You'll know that when you get there. Her hair is falling out. She is not a well person, and of course she's actually coming toward the end, the artificial end of her life, because she's executed the following year. But yeah, she's now, those buildings that she was kept in no longer exist, but there are records of it, and an excavation that was done there in conjunction with the British Museum and someone else I can't remember, but the British Museum I know were involved, uncovered part of the foundations of what is believed to be the buildings which Mary was kept in on that final occasion. And in my Patreon, I put more pictures and videos of exactly where that is and what it looks like. And if you're coming on tour like Linda is with me in September, by the way, there are some spaces left for September. That's the only tour that's the only tour that's on sale at the moment, because next May's Anne Boleyn tour is already sold out, and I've still got to release the other 2024 tours. But there are some spaces on the Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour this September, and it's not being repeated. So if you fancy it, take a look at the website, britishhistorytours.com/history tours. Well, if you just go to the website and you'll see, and click on the Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour and have a look, because this is your opportunity to do that that tour. And of course, with everything, prices going up and everything, then you can get on at kind of this year's prices. But yeah, there's a few spaces left, and you get to come to Tutbury Castle with us and you'll see where the foundations they've left them the markings out of the foundations there, so you can know that you're in the same space. It's really incredible. It's really quite incredible. So take a look at the reel that I've done on Instagram. The story will have gone now, but oh, the dustbin man's outside. I hope you can't hear him. So Marion, what castle did Mary Queen of Scots stay at that played a part in the downfall of Bess of Hardwicke? So that might be linked to Tutbury, actually, because it was Bess of Hardwicke's husband who was initially the custodian of Mary to begin with, but he had a number of properties, and so Tutbury was one of those properties. There is some embroideries which Mary Queen of Scots did with Bess of Hardwicke, which I was lucky enough to see displayed at the British Library. I want to say last year, but it might even have been the year before now. Time flies. And actually at Tutbury, I think they were partly done at Tutbury, and at Tutbury, another lady, a lady embroiderer now has a few years ago has recreated them. They're fabulous, and they're at Tutbury. Marion, yeah, the downfall of her marriage, Bess of Hardwicke. I'm trying to think who her husband was. Who? Now he was stopped from being Mary Queen of Scots custodian. I think there was suspicion that he'd sort of fallen for Mary's charms, which didn't help his marriage to Bess of Hardwicke, clearly, but also lost him the role of custodian to Mary. I think that whole story is in the interview I've done with Leslie, actually. So I tell you what, I will repost that interview after this so that you can have a look. It's a bit out of the way, Tutbury Castle. It's not one that I think people either don't know too much about or don't make the journey to it, but it is worth it. It is well worth it. And you could pair it up with going to, say, Hardwicke Hall, Bess of Hardwicke's Hall, home. So there are other things to do in the area as well. And they also have events on as well. But yes, I've still got some spaces on the September tour. So if you're interested in coming to Tutbury on the Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour, we get to see Leslie twice on that tour. The day before, we get to see Leslie as Elizabeth I at Harvington Hall, which I have talked about quite a lot. And it's a Catholic recusance house, Elizabethan Manor House. So to see Elizabeth in this house is quite fabulous. Maria, must have been the biggest, stinkiest compost heap ever. Yeah. So there was a purpose behind it, and that's just part of the bad treatment as well, where she was housed. She had been allowed to have her cloth of estate up. That was pulled down. So yeah, she was, but I think she was just in an impossible position. You could say she shouldn't have got involved in any of the plots, but she had no other avenue. When she first escaped to England, of course, it was in the thought that Elizabeth would support her and she would be going straight back up to Scotland to take back her throne. So yeah, it didn't go as she had thought it would. Linda says a lot of that history is discussed in Blood, Fire and Gold. Yes, of course. So for any of you who've joined since I was talking about it, we've got book club coming up soon, and we're discussing this book, Blood, Fire and Gold by Estelle Peronk, and it's the biography of Elizabeth I and Catherine de Medici, the sort of French Queen Mother. Mary features a lot because, of course, Catherine Medici was her first mother-in-law, and obviously Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots, are cousins, and she features a lot in that story. So where are we up to? We're 50 minutes in. So quick reminder, the Tudor Online History Festival lineup, we've got 7 speakers now. So last week I announced the 6th, we've had a 7th. So now in completeness, we have Tracy Borman, Gareth Russell, Katrina Marchant, Estelle Peronk, Joanne Paul, James Clark, whose interview I can't wait for you to see. In fact, once James's interview is out, that will be all 6 of those will have interviews on YouTube, so you can check them out beforehand. And the 7th, so the additional speaker, which I'm so pleased has been able to confirm, is Illyri Lynn, who is a textiles and fashion historian. So I'm still to decide which. She's got so many talks she could give on Tudor fashion. I'm yet to decide which one to ask her to do, but her talks on Georgian fashion and Stuart fashions have been incredible, because it's not just about what they wear, it's about all the significance and the meaning in what they wear, as well as the practicalities of what they wear, how they got dressed and things, which I find fascinating. You'll be able to see the interview, like I say, with Julian Humphreys on the Battle of Tewkesbury next week. If you're a patron, you get to see that early. It will also be on the podcast. I must say, I should have said at the beginning, thank you to anyone who's listening on the podcast. Much appreciated. And you can, let me see if I can find the exact, no, I can't. So you can get links to all of the things that I'm up to, and news about events and tours, etc., everything basically all in one place. If you sign up to my free Substack, it's philippa.b.substack.com, Philippa with 1 L and 2 P's. So philippa.b.substack.com. Look at Substack, look up Philippa B. You'll find me there, or you can go via the link in my bio, and then you get my free newsletter. You also get this as well via email or via your Substack app to watch if you've missed it. I'm going to leave you there. I won't be seeing you tonight on History After Dark, I'm afraid, but the girls are there, so there is a History After Dark. They're doing a Q&A. They'll be talking to you about what they've been up to, and you can ask about where the Wars of the Roses name came from. Rebecca's going to put that to Kat tonight. I will see you again next week at 1 o'clock on Wednesday for another Tea Time History Chat Live. And the evening on History After Dark next week will be our roundup of the last 4 candidates for Deceased Git of 2023. So 2023 is our Deceased Git season. We are scoring and ranking gits from history. So this is our 3rd roundup. It will be next week. Join us for that. For now, though, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining, and take care, and I'll see you all really soon. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.